The U.S. Bureau of the Census reports that there are 44 million African American people living in the country, comprising 13.4% of the U.S. population. However, African Americans are overrepresented among drug abusers in the United States. Findings from the 2018 National Survey on Drug Use and Health show that 6.9% of African Americans have a substance use disorder, to a rate of 7.4% among the total population. By mapping DNA sequences in drug addicts, scientists have been able to isolate gene sequences that indicate a greater risk of becoming addicted to drugs. These gene sequences contain instructions for producing specific proteins that perform the majority of the body's life functions. The way these proteins function, or don't, indicate how vulnerable a person is to drug addiction. Hello, everybody. This is your PSA with Kay, and today we will be taking a look at the environmental history surrounding African Americans. By using the study of epigenetics, we will be trying to prepare an answer as to why African Americans have the highest percentage of drug addiction in the United States. Let's take a look. So, what is alcohol? Alcohol is a CNS depressant and neurotransmitter inhibitor that alters thoughts, feelings, and behavior. Ethanol, which is the active ingredient in alcohol, produces the intoxicating effects in alcohol. It can damage your liver and is lethal in large amounts. When you drink, alcohol forces the brain to release GABA, a neurotransmitter that creates relaxing and pleasurable moods. Once intoxication ends, however, the depletion of GABA makes drinkers feel depressed, anxious, and moody. To keep enslaved people in a submissive mental state, captors created safety valves to release the frustration and tension constantly building in their victims' minds. One valve was to provide holidays between Christmas and New Year's, as well as the 4th of July, to occupy the minds of slaves with social events and wipe out their minds with alcohol. In his biography, Frederick Douglass said that slave owners would take advantage of this time by getting enslaved people dangerously intoxicated. They would make bets on a slave being able to drink more whiskey than any other in order to induce a rivalry among them. This rivalry would result in brutal displays of drunken violence for captors to enjoy. To be clear, there is no specific gene for alcoholism. Genetic factors affect the risk of alcohol dependence, the level of alcohol consumption, and the risk of alcohol-associated diseases, including psoriasis and upper GI cancers. In this slide, I describe how the genes with the clearest contribution to the risk for alcoholism are ADH1B and ALDH2, two genes that are central to the metabolism of alcohol. I explain the two steps needed for alcohol metabolism, and essentially what I want to get through here is that ALDH2 has the largest impact on alcohol consumption. Now, moving on to our second topic, crack cocaine. Crack cocaine is a smoked version of cocaine that provides a short and extremely insane high. The drug sends extreme levels of dopamine into the parts of your brain that control pleasure. This causes intense feelings of energy and alertness, called a high. Research has shown that cocaine is a dangerously addictive substance that alters brain structure and function if abused. Due to redlining and other discriminatory practices by real estate agents, African American families were primarily located in low-income inner-city neighborhoods. Distribution of crack cocaine occurred mainly in low-income inner-city neighborhoods that were already in a state of social and economic failure, such as New York, Los Angeles, and Atlanta. As a result of the low skill level requirement and minimal training required to sell crack, systemic violence thrived as young and impressionable inner-city African Americans attempted to defend their crack-selling economic investment. This culminated in the crack epidemic that raged on from 1981 into the early 1990s. But guess what? A 2009 NIDA study-funded research found that mice given repeated cocaine exposure turn on genes in certain regions of the brain. These genes, called sirtuins, are activated by long-term exposure to cocaine, and it looks like they contribute to the development of addiction. When scientists prevented serotonin activation in the brain, the mice didn't find cocaine to be as rewarding. Without turning these genes on, cocaine couldn't give the mice a high anymore, and the mice didn't want the drug as much. The use of crack cocaine in Black communities also caused for the 20% and higher increase in fetal death rates, low birth weight babies, and the number of children in foster care. This shows how cocaine has impacted our genes and as well as the African American reproduction rate. Last but not least, we have marijuana. So, marijuana is the dried flowers and leaves of the cannabis plant. It contains psychoactive components like THC, as well as other active compounds like CBD that aren't mind-altering. The cannabis plant has chemicals in it that may help symptoms for some health problems, such as reducing anxiety and inflammation, relieving pain, controlling nausea and vomiting, killing some cancer cells and slowing tumor growth, relaxing tight muscles, and stimulating appetite while improving weight gain in people with cancer and AIDS. The negative long-term effects of cannabis include having difficulty thinking and problem solving, having problems with memory, learning and maintaining attention, and demonstrating impaired coordination. Additionally, long-term usage has shown that it can lead to addiction. Genetically, cannabinoids suppress macromolecular synthesis, DNA, RNA, and protein, and reduce the level of histone gene expression. General studies show that cannabinoids can be detrimental to the health of an individual. With more legalization, studies on the cannabis plant are increasing. As we find out more about marijuana, it is important to be conscious of the growing number of Black Americans addicted to marijuana today. Most states are making it legal to use marijuana as medicine for certain conditions. However, there is still more to learn about the health impact that marijuana can have. So, historically speaking, drugs have been used as a tool against Black folks. We saw in the 1950s with alcohol, and we saw it in the 1980s and 90s with crack cocaine. However, today we can see Black Americans taking a turn to education and better health. Even though a lot of Black Americans are still using marijuana today, I believe that we're seeing more of us educate each other and understand the health benefits, risks, and factors behind what we put in and do to our bodies. We are seeing a more educated Black America. I believe that today, as we move toward less harmful drugs like marijuana, we can hope that future generations of Black children are better educated about how substance abuse has been used against African Americans for generations and be properly warned about the addictive and damaging nature of drugs. This has been your PSA with Kay. All sources will be linked in the description box below. Thank you for learning with me, and have a nice day. Bye, everybody.